Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Ganga Jamni's Facebook Live series. Today is the conclusion of our Bengalyana or the Bengal special or the Durga Puja special. There's a bit of that you can feel this festivity in the air. And despite all that that's happening around us, I feel that, this is a time to celebrate. And you can feel that already in the air. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Bengalis and Delhi. So, Bengalis and Delhi go back a long way. The first bunch of Bengalis settled down in Delhi in the early 19th century for want of better opportunities. The first Kalibari of Delhi is the one at Tees Hazari, which still exists. The idol and Kalibari were first established in 1826, but the temple was destroyed during the 1857 revolt. The idol was later salvaged and a temple was built in Roshanpura. When trains first connected Calcutta to Delhi in 1864, they brought even more Bengalis. The next big wave of Bengalis that hit Delhi came more out of compulsion when the British Raj shifted from Calcutta to Delhi in 1911. Also came like lots of babus, the Bengali professionals, and a lot of families in tow. Bengali settlers were first put up at Timarpur. They belonged to central government departments like railways, revenue, press. With the advent of Bengalis to Delhi also came Durga Puja. It is said that Bhavani Majumdar and a few other wealthy Bengalis from Rajshahi, which is now in Bangladesh, had come to Delhi sometime in 1842 on an administrative mission in the Darbar of then Mughal Emperor. Since their work in Delhi had been delayed, and the Durga Puja season was almost round the corner, they decided to worship Mother Durga in Delhi itself. So that's how the first Durga Puja really happened. However, what is interesting is that the first public Durga Puja in Delhi was organized in 1910 at Roshanpura Kali Mandir near Nai Sadak. Between 1913 and 1946, the puja was held in the space provided by Lala Lakshmi Narayan and his son Lala Girdhari Lal at their Dharamshala, which is near Fatehpuri Masjid. In 1948, the puja was shifted to Delhi Polytechnic in Kashmiri Gate. From 57 to 67, the puja was held at Women's Polytechnic. In 68, it was shifted to Bengali Boys Senior Secondary School in Alipur Road, which is near IP College, Civil Lines. And there you still have a lot of pomp and grandeur. Chittaranjan Park, actually, the EPDB, hosted its first Durga Puja in 1970, opposite where the market number one is. In the course of the next few years, it was felt necessary to organize more pandals because of the increase in population. At present, CR Park hosts about 12 to 13 puja pandals. Now, today there are lots of Durga Pujas around the NCR, Delhi. You have a bunch of them in Noida, Gurgaon, and Ghaziabad. Actually, next week is going to be quite a lot of fun in my neighborhood too. So, to talk more about Durga Puja, its significance, its symbolism, and the rituals associated with, because I have just done pandal hopping, which is what I was telling our guest Samrat Banerjee a few minutes ago. And who's Samrat? Samrat Banerjee is, I think you probably recognize him. He is the award-winning restaurateur. He is an entrepreneur, F&B entrepreneur, and he's one of the organizers and very sort of prominent people of the Durgautsav of Greater Kailash II, which I didn't know until recently. And I want to thank Shivani for connecting us. So Samrat is also a Prabhasi Bengali, and his family moved to Delhi about 200, 250 years ago. So 2.5 centuries ago, his family moved here. So let's welcome Samrat. Hi, good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Excellent. Puja Puja is in the air. It's as we call it, the Puja Puja Gandho. The fragrance of Puja is in the air. So it's wonderful.
Oh, I love the sound of it. Puja Puja Gandho. Yeah, it's nice. My Bengali, I don't want to even say the words because it's sacrilegious. It's so beautiful just to hear Bangla. And then, and then I say this in my Delhi accent. It's terrible. So I'm going to
No,
avoid that reference. So, Samrat, tell us a little bit about, before we begin talking about Durga Puja and, of course, everything around it, could you tell us a bit about how your family ended up being in Delhi and how Durga Puja, which is so intrinsic to your sort of, annual affair as a family, started?
Sure, I mean, most of it. Uh, when Bengal started shifting from Bengal. Now, to understand, Bengal in those days were very different. There was no East and West Bengal. This was this one huge landmass and community. So like our family, we are Bangals. We are all from Dhaka, so that's where we originate from. And so a lot of people, constantly keep on asking me about Calcutta and what happens in Calcutta. And I'm completely a fish out of water because my family or anyone, we've never been in Calcutta, even though we are Bengalis, but we don't have that West Bengal Calcutta connect because we are all from Dhaka. When I say we, I mean because it's not only just geographically we are from there, but culturally we belong to that part of the geography. So my family came from Dhaka over a long period of time. It's not like there was just one exodus, and this had got nothing to do with any partition or anything of that. So this was almost 100 years before partition is when they started shifting, and primarily because these were groups of men who were very established back home, and I mean, they were almost royalty out there because I mean, anybody who had land or a zamindar or for that matter, if they had education, the English education at that point of time, automatically you came under that little brown sahib category. So most of my family actually started, sort of moving into the northern part of India or Hindustan during that period when the British started settling all over from Lucknow, Kanpur, Banaras, Delhi, Shimla, this entire belt. So they initially, when we're looking at the Prabasi Bengali Durga Puja, we cannot leave Kanpur because Kanpur is one of the first places where outside of Bengal, Durga Puja became really big. And actually, Delhi and Shimla comes next to that when it comes to Pravasi. So my family, over that period of time, starting from the early 1800s to mid 1800s, they shifted in batches. Two very distinct parts, one which stayed back in Kanpur, the other one which came to Delhi. I belong to that bloodline. And around the late 1800s and early 1900s is when my great grandfather, his name, he was a Rai Bahadur, he was Rai Bahadur Amritalal Banerjee. Now, he was an important part of the entire Bengali community during that time because he was one of those first guys who really brought the entire Bengali community together. Of course, there were the Mukherjees and the Sains and so on of Kashmiri Gate and Daryaganj and so on. So this is the time when Daryaganj was really growing, and that was the aristocratic community, and that's when one of the first Durga Pujas which started popping up with them. So, as you mentioned, the Bengali Boys High School and the New Delhi Kalibari, or for that matter, Shimla Kalibari and all. So, even if you go to the office out there, there's a huge portrait of my great grandfather because I mean he was one of the first ones who he was the guy who established these areas because for him being Bengali not only by language but by spirit and by culturally, socially was very important. So even the pictures that you see, these are these are the sons and daughters of the first Pravasis. So these are very special, and so these are all my grandmothers and all, and these are from Daryaganj Durga Puja from the late 60s and 70s. Unfortunately, there are a lot of photographs that you'll find. I mean, it's impossible to find of that period because they're there, but even I've seen them growing up. But the thing is that when you grow up, when you're growing up, somehow you don't value it till the time you actually really realize what the archive that you missed out on. So, well, as I said, we are all Daryaganj people. Daryaganj was the place where there was a huge hub of Bengalis. So you had the Daryaganj Durga Puja, you had the Kashmiri Gate Durga Puja, you had the Minto Road and Kalibari, which came up later on. So that became like the hub of the Delhi aristocratic Bengali community, and that's where it started from. And now, I'm very proud of one fact. Like today, whenever I look at all the Durga Pujas across Delhi, and rather I should say Delhi NCR, may they be in Faridabad or Noida or in Gurgaon or multiple places in Delhi, um, the funny part is you will have like either their president or their secretary or someone or the other, they're all from Daryaganj, which makes me so proud. It was like the breeding and training grounds for the Pravasi Bengalis to actually, take out the culture from them. So I think that was beautiful. So, I mean, we are this one big, fat, huge community. So it's so funny, whenever there's some logistical issues anywhere or whatever's happening around during the pujo. So it's all, I mean, we are all a phone call away. It's like, oh, hey, we need this, oh, by the way, did you guys get this license and stuff like that. So throughout the year, we may not be that connected. As we always say, Bengalis only wake up and suddenly they become these sleeping lions just during the show, and may that be food or enjoyment or anything of that sort. So I think that's brilliant. As a matter of fact, when you're looking at Mandir in Safdarjung, one of the largest temples out there, so my Tayaji, or my uncle, my Bua's husband, so he was the one who actually established that temple. Again,
Oh.
going back because it's a beautiful story. That's a little bit of a history from his forefathers. Then you're looking at then when you look at Mahamaya Temple at Saket, he's
Hmm.
Shumit Ghosh, who's the architect and the founder member of the temple, again from Daryaganj. Where when you look at all these different Durga Pujas around, it's so beautiful to know that they all have this old Delhi connect, where and
Right.
all these families, we were all extremely connected together. Because you see, as Prabasis, the second you leave your country, uh, sorry, your area, your geographical
Yeah.
area, as it happens to everyone. I've been in
Hmm.
London for 6 years. I've been in Switzerland for a good 6 years again. For almost 12, 13 years, I was outside India, and
Hmm.
I strongly believe that I actually turned Bengali when I was abroad, rather than
Hmm.
how I was born. Of course, I mean that
Hmm.
nut was always there, but
Hmm.
the whole the Bengaliness as we know it
Hmm.
came up
Hmm.
because that's what I connected, with my forefathers and all our forefathers, when they came in from Bengal, that staying in Delhi or in Kanpur or Lucknow and all, because you see, they were part of this entire
Yes.
Ram Sahib community, all the way from Shimla going into the Gangetic Plains towards Kanpur. So this entire area, because you'll also realize why did these Bengalis suddenly come from, and why not other communities which bursted? Because see, the history of East India Company slash the British Crown in India has the longest period that they've stayed in and around Bengal. Now, when we talk about the Bengal presidency, you're talking about a huge area all the way from Tripura going down to Orissa.
Right.
Now,
Orissa.
obviously, there, English became the language, the English way of behaving became the way of behaving. I mean, you had the Brahma Samaj, which almost became like the Brown Sahib community of India. So these were guys who spoke English fluently. They understood the English way of doing things. So hence, I mean, made them, barristers and doctors, clerks and higher officers. There were all these brown who came from with Bengal, and
Yes.
and any other community in India. Whenever they travel with their entire identity.
Hmm. Hmm.
A Bengali, irrespective whether that person is spiritual or not, or religious or not, Durga Puja is something which is a huge part of our identity. That is something
Hmm.
think that there is no disconnect between being Bengali and Durga Puja. So even though it comes under this whole spiritual umbrella, uh, but I think it is so much beyond the whole religious factor in that.
Hmm. Hmm. So, Samrat, tell us about Durga Puja. Like, for a Delhiite like me, what happens is that when you go to Durga Puja, you think of food, you think of lots of fun,
Correct.
crowds, and of course, this massive idol. Now, we've never really known. I mean, one knows, like, you see a lot of images of Kumar Toli, you see a lot of these images of, like, Durga, in clay being made, and of course, the procession on the 10th day. But I don't know, and I think a lot of us do not know, and that's the purpose of Ganga Jamni. We try to promote, cross cultural understanding. So could you, with that intent, explain to us what exactly happens? And of course, there's a lot of gaiety and a lot of fun, frolic. But beyond that, let's talk a little bit more about the spiritual part of, like, what's the story.
So, you know, of course, we'll talk about the spiritual part. You see, as I was just saying that the Bengali identity is so intertwined with the whole Durga Puja connect. In that, we need to understand one very important thing, and what is the reason why? Because if you look through our entire Bengali history, which I mean, I don't want to get into the historical number bit, dates wise, but if you look at it, the Bengali as a Bengali community, it dates back, say, 5, 6, 700 years,
Hmm.
as the Bengali identity that we know today. So during that entire period, Durga Puja is almost like milestones of how our community changed through and through. May that be our political identity, or social, or cultural, or even economic identity
Hmm.
of our culture. Now,
Sure.
of course, you can't take the spirituality out of it. And the spirituality of Durga Puja is beautiful because it's got so many layers at the same time. It's like a layered cake. I
Hmm.
mean, you understand each layer at the same time. You can eat the whole cake and, like, and enjoy it in the as a go. So when you're looking really at the history of Durga Puja, it's very simple. There are these two guys, and I'm again, I'm not going to give you a date because it's difficult to find a Shastra date on this one, but
Mm-hmm.
talk about a little story out here. So,
Mm-hmm.
typically there are four Navaratras in the year. We only celebrate two because it's more like the change of season, and the way we do it. The other ones are obviously much more spiritual, and the ones which are done under a certain shastra or a guru that it's performed. Now, so there is this one Raja whose name is Surat,
Hmm.
and there is another guy whose his name is Samadhi Vaishya. So now
Hmm.
these guys independently, they are very upset with their lives because the Raja's ministers and all have cheated him, and and he doesn't know what to do, and his wife doesn't want to, the queen doesn't want to, like, sort of give him any money or anything of that sort. I mean, the atypical the material world issues. And Samadhi also went through a very similar sort of a thing with with his son, who's taken all his property and stuff like that. So these are two little very sad men, and so they have gone into the forest to look for solace, and sort of understand what life like a spiritual journey. And they discuss about their problems. Whilst they're doing so, they hear these beautiful shlokas which were being sort of narrated at the background. And they walk in and they meet this sadhu who's in his little ashram, and he's reading these beautiful shloks from this book which is made out of leaves, and his name is Rishi Medha. Now, so Rishi Medha, for the first time, explains to these two men that you are completely caught in this whole world of Maya, and Maya is nothing but it's that that Krishna has just turned his back towards you. So
Hmm.
he said, how is Krishna? And so as in Gita it says that Krishna, so Krishna himself, he says that I may not be available everywhere, but in the form of Yog Maya I'm available everywhere, and it's and anybody can reach me through that. So it's like, you've been caught in this whole Maya so much that you've forgotten Mahamaya. So
Ah.
he's there. started narrating and telling them the story of Mahamaya, which scripturally we find in the book Chandi, which is parts of Markandeya Puran, Kalika
mm,
Puran,
mm,
Agam Tantra. So when you put them together, there is this one entire archive or a book or a collection rather, which is called Chandi, which becomes your entire foundation stone for for anyone who is serving Durga, or for that matter, any manifestations of Durga. So these two men are very important to us. It's a very, very tiny incident which happened in their life, probably, but to us
mm.
it's very important because they were the first ones who created the Mrinmay Murti, which
Ah,
means before that, Durga was, we'll get to that, but before that, Durga was always served in a probably in a temple or in a specific manner or by a rishi through a yagya or and so on. But for the first time, these two men they created the murti, the physical image, or which we call mrinmay, which means made out of clay.
wow.
So the Mrinmay Murti. That's why during Durga Puja we say Chin Mrinmoite Chinmoyer Avahan, which means in in the clay idol, I am calling the eternal.
Wow.
So I'm inviting the eternal into the clay idol. Now,
Like a pran pratishtha sort of a thing, is it?
absolutely. We do it. Even Pran Pratishtha is very interesting. Pran Pratishtha cannot happen till the priest first manifests the goddess within himself, and which we call it the Nyash. So every little point of I mean, the priest's body and so on, which through mantras are I mean, it's woken up by the Devi,
Mm,
and then his energy he passes it on to the
mm.
goddess.
Wow.
So but then when these two guys they created the murti, and but again this Durga Puja that we're talking about is your Bashunti Puja. Bashunti Puja, which means happens in Chaitra Mas.
Chaitra. Okay.
So in Chaitra Mas is end of March. So because it's
Hmm.
like spring, that's why Bashunti Puja. So they started Bashunti Puja, and now I'm going to tell you something which how then Bashunti Puja turned into the Durga Puja. So there is
Okay.
a historical story which we call the itihas, which a lot of people say mythology. That is something a word which I try to avoid because it can be very politically incorrect now. So in our itihas, you'll always find that the Durga Puja, which happens in October, it's called Akal Bodhon. So Akal Bodhon means like an untimely wake. So if I wake you up, say like in the middle of the night, that is what an Akal Bodhan is. The reason we call that is because when Ram went to Lanka, so imagine him at the last, I mean, the corner of India and close to
Ah,
Kanyakumari at Rameshwaram.
hmm.
So he's about to go to Lanka, but there's a huge problem because Ravan and Lanka, that's one place where Chandi has always blessed because Ravan was
Of
a
course.
huge. I mean, one of the most intelligent Brahmins of that
Right.
time and a devotee of Shiva. And
Mhm.
I mean, so Ma Chandi had always blessed Lanka. Now, for Ram, to the second he would have attacked Lanka, so before Ravan, he would have had to face her. So that was a huge challenge. So that is when Brahma came and advised that he should Bibhishan and Brahma. They said you should pray to Ma Chandi during this time, and because we understand that this is the time when all the gods are sleeping because there's the Chaturmas going on, the
Oh,
4 months, which we call the Dakshinayan basically, which is when
right.
the moves from the sun doesn't, the axis changes. So the
Ah,
sun moves from the Tropic of Cancer to Capricorn. So because it's in
hmm.
the southern hemisphere, so that's the time when all the gods are known to sleep during in Aryavat or in
Ah,
our.
in Avar. Hmm.
So that's the time when, because they sleep, you have to untimely wake them up and call her. and she has to come and bless you and actually give you the permission, or for that matter, sort of get into an alliance with her where she's going to, like, take her protection off, and you'll be able to invade Lanka.
Hmm.
That's the time when Ram did the first puja of Akal Bodhan. Now that's what we find. That's the puja which is supposed to be done during the October, the one we celebrate now. So during the Ashwin period. So Shukla Pakshe of Ashwin means the Shukla Paksh of the
Hmm.
Ashwin month is when
Hmm.
he did puja. Now what happened in Bengal, there were multiple places, multiple kings, and so on, who then slowly started doing Durga Puja. Again, let me also explain this to you I mean, this is important to understand. This is
Let
where
me
the
also
culture.
focus on you so that people can see you clearly.
So what happened during this period is that this, say, like around 3.5, 400 years back. Now, one of the most important things is that the entire society was sort of disintegrating into little parts, and you had the whole Brahmins and the whole Kshetras, and there was Muslim invasion from one side, which they were trying to also sort of merge in a very sort of cohesive relation with all different little fragments of society out there. So a lot of Maharajas and Zamindars and people of any sort of financial wealth, they started Durga Puja in and around Bengal, primarily not only for the favor of the goddess, or for that matter, the religious reasons, but primarily they also wanted to bring the society together. See, that was very important, and getting the society together meant that, each levels and layers of society which could sort of, celebrate together. So that was very important, because that also helped in building the commerce, building the economy for that area. People would interact, whatever little issues they may have had, and this annual festival would sort of break that and sort of bring everyone together. So when you're looking at Durga Puja as that cultural sort of a thing, now these, we owe it to these zamindars and kings and so on, the reason being because they brought in something which was very important. uh, Again, I'm going back to my original story of Raja Surat and Samadhi Vaishya. Now you have these two people. There is this one Vaishya who is a business class gentleman, and then there is this Raja who's a Kshatriya, and they were the one under the tutelage of your Rishi Medha, who started the entire puja, getting the entire village together. So when this is one festival which breaks the entire, this caste system, as we call it. So there's nothing that this one can and this one can't, and this one can enter and that one shouldn't, and so on. So this became very important. Where everyone can join in together under the entire this whole beauty and grandeur of Ma. So this is where the whole inspiration of Durga Puja sort of went across, and the most beautiful part is that over the period of time. So this is where how Bashunti Puja used to take place. This is the one in March which used to happen, but Durga Puja also used to take place during the Ashwin months. There were many places who I know where both used to take place. Like, in our family long back, I've heard that, I mean, not heard, sorry, I've read that, we used to have both Bashanti Puja and Durga Puja. But Durga Puja became very popular. Now, you need to understand how that happened, and that had got nothing to do with the spirituality of it. It actually was very, I mean, part of it was very sort of strategic, and the other part was very sad. During the months of March and April, there were a lot of people who would have I mean, that was the time for smallpox, unfortunately. And this is the early 1800s, late 1800s, and so on, where in Bengal, this was the time which was quite warm. It used to get, like, hot. And this is the time most the patronage, or for that matter, even if a zamindar was having a Durga Puja, needed the local British guys the redcoats help in doing the pujo. So to do so, they had to invite all the Brits and all, and now I mean, bringing them to your village or to your home or to your place where there's smallpox everywhere and it's extremely hot and muggy was very difficult. So this was actually the reason why the main Durga Puja, which started in during the springtime, moved to the autumn time. So I mean, they were both equally, I mean, Shastra wise, equally important, but one just took over, when it came to the festivities.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people who don't even remember that, there's a Bashanti Puja which takes place. Apart from
Hmm.
in Delhi, there are five or six of them which take place in New Delhi, Kalibadi, or any of the temples.
Hmm.
But in Bengal, this entire patronage of Durga Puja in the autumn months, this is when this became really, really big. And you'll be surprised. I mean, if you go back and look at old paintings and old, little, I mean,
Crafts.
historical uh, archives of any Durga Puja archives, whenever you see them, there is this very specific photograph that you'll see that there is Durga Puja happening. You have a lot of half-cladded men because the you would have the Englishmen painting them. So you have
Hmm.
these dark creatures with half-cladded clothes in the dotted in the painting, and you will have these very fancily dressed British officers and all standing out there. And so it became so like when we talk about Shobhabaja Rajbari, which is huge in Kolkata, and that's the northern part of Calcutta, where Durga Puja really took, I mean, it just bursted out there. So
Hmm.
there were these multiple little houses. So you have the Mulliks and the Daws and the Shaws and the this one, what you call the Chaudhuri Baris and Dotto Baris and so on. I mean, if you go to Calcutta, North Calcutta, every lane is named after one of them. They all had their own houses and own style of Durga, and that's how it continued. And there was so much of competition between each one of them. So there is
Hmm.
this movie which Ritu Porno had done. I remember Ritu Dad doing this movie called I think it was called, I'm forgetting, Ontur Mahal or something,
Yes,
where
yes, correct.
this whole thing about how the face of Durga needs to be like Queen Victoria to impress
Right.
the British to give him a Rai Bahaduri. It's not false. It's true. Those
Hmm.
are real stories which came out at that time. So in North Calcutta, they became so Durga Puja became a matter not only of spiritual pride, but or religious or cultural pride. It became a huge matter of prestige. Like who would have the grander, the more grandeur and more sort of. This is a very interesting story, and I'm not going to name these two people actually because they're very very close friends. So so we're going to call them landlord one and landlord two. So
Right.
landlord one had bought these beautiful mirrors from Belgium, and so it was hanging in his wall. When landlord two came to his house for dinner, saw them and said, you have these two beautiful mirrors. Why don't you give me one? I'll buy it off you.
Hmm.
So the guy refused to do so, and that really affected his ego. So in a couple of months, Durga Puja came. So landlord two invited landlord one over to their house, and from the entire road, I mean, which was approximately around maybe 400-500 meters away, he laid the entire road with these mirrors
Gosh.
from Belgium, that he could walk on that and come and say like, you had two and you didn't give me one, so I have got these whatever as many numbers there were to. So Durga
Ah,
Puja, huge thing about pomp and show during that period of time,
right.
and that obviously that changed because then there was this huge when the whole nationalist movement came in, suddenly there was this merge. I mean, when you're looking at even a national song, which is Vande Mataram, this sort of, giving this Devi form to the motherland became
Hmm.
important, and suddenly Durga was no longer just the Devi of she was just not the spiritual Devi. She was also the patriotic Devi. She was the one who wore the khadi and held the flag and
Right.
sat on the lion and so on. And
Hmm.
so that is when, see, there are stories about how the Barbaris or colony puja started. I've had so many different stories on that one, so I'm not 200% sure which one is correct because it's not really archived well. They are
Oh,
archived now. People who've said the story so many times, but technically, if you go by it, it's not. So, and the story goes like 12 friends who were not allowed in a mandir for a puja or in a zamindar bari for a puja. So 12 friends got together. It's in Howrah, which is across the Ganges from Kolkata. The 12 of them, they got together and they started a puja together. So Baro Bari means 12 houses which got together and did this puja together for the first time, and that's how the whole community puja started. Now, I've heard multiple stories on this one. I've heard that the first Barwadi Puja was actually by Bagh Bajar, which is in North Calcutta, and what a beautiful ma they have. Every year, I mean, you shut half the bongs, they shut their eyes, and all that they see is like the Bagh Bajar's Ma Durga's face. So Bagh Bajar was another one who's a pioneer in Durga Puja. So it's difficult to say whether Bagh Bajar started or the 12 friends started. Irrespective, that was the period when the community puja started, and these community pujas were primarily to bring. So it was a little breakaway from the zamindars pujas because the zamindars and all of them who were having a puja at that time was primarily to impress the English, whereas
hmm.
these pujas, which were the community pujas, were actually grounds to discuss politics and the whole Bharat Mata concept, or for that matter. And I mean, and it's so beautiful. I mean, there are in not in Rangoon, but somewhere close to Rangoon, when Netaji was in one of the jails out there, he started a puja there. I mean, they couldn't come back to Calcutta, so they started a puja there. So there've been pujas, community pujas in North Calcutta, which were started by people like Vivekananda Swamiji, by Netaji, Subhash Chandra Bose, and multiple. I mean, there were many, many, many of them. So these community pujas then started really popping up. Then every colony wanted to have their own identity. As South Calcutta grew and so on, and the same in Delhi. As the
Yeah, yeah.
community grows, it's like we say like if there are four Bengalis, for sure in 5 years you're going to have two Durga Pujas, and in 10 years you'll have four Durga Pujas. So, which I don't think is true though, but well, that's been. I mean, in Delhi, I remember my grandparents and all, talking about these five Durga Pujas which used to be and so on. Today, we are counting almost close to 2,000 Durga Pujas in Delhi NCR, including the
Wow.
little ones and so on. So, the whole idea of Durga Puja is not only, the spiritual angle to it is very important because it is worshipping the mother goddess, it's worshipping
Mm,
nature. Because if you really look at it, before we used to have the whole clay idol, we
mm,
were worshipping the Navapatrika, which were 9 leaves put together, which represented the 9 Durgas. So even till now, if you when you go to the pandal next time, right next to Ganesh, you'll see like a banana tree which is dressed in a sari and kept out there.
right,
Poor
right.
goes into, but she is the main Durga. So it's Navapatrika Vasinne Durga. So it's like so Durga, the main form is nature, which she's represented by these 9 leaves, and it's beautiful because over the period of time you will realize that she went. I mean, of course, there are lots of these stories. Durga Puja also walks very closely with spirituality and folklore.
Mm,
So where and the folklore is beautiful because it gives you that emotion about Durga Puja. So when you're looking at Durga Puja as a in the spiritual part of it, the bhav is very important.
mm,
And in Bengal, Durga is not Mata or Mata Rani or the Devi, and that's the picture of the Navapatrika, the banana tree, and how, I mean, that's the entire ritual which, she's evoked and she's been asked to come in and then she's placed out there. So when you're looking at the entire the spirituality of Durga Puja out there, for, I mean, of course she's a Devi, but for us as Bengalis, we, there is this huge sort of how would I say, emotional connect with her, because it is also intertwined with a personal relationship with her, our personal sambandh with her as our daughter. So the whole story is our daughter is coming home. How we are going to welcome her for the 4 days. So if there are these beautiful songs, and you must listen to some of them, which talks about, it literally borderline abuses Shivji for keeping her so badly for such a long time. भांग खिला के रखा हुआ है, हाँ शमशान में रखा हुआ है, सब जेवर बेच दिए हैं, हाँ, और बेचारी को इतना दुखी किया है, चावल पे नमक तक नहीं मिलता. Thank God my little daughter is coming back home. I'm going to feed her, I'm going to bathe her, dress her nicely, dance for her, sing for her. So that has that folklorish way of our personal relationship with her has become this entire manifestation of Durga Puja that we know. This joy. You forget everything and you just submerge yourself and completely drench yourself in this joy and forget everyone. So I mean, I have friends and they are from all different communities from Bangladesh to everywhere, and they all come and recently I had just uploaded a small video on our Facebook page of this very dear friend of mine who's a celebrity singer. Otherwise, his name is Shapnil Shajib. Now this is what explains what Durga Puja right now means to us. So of course he's a Muslim guy from Bangladesh, and he was here during the pujo. And this reporter asked, like, oh, so how do you find Durga Puja? How do you enjoy it? Being a Muslim foreigner. So he for a second he just winked and told him, like, and he narrated the Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu shlok and said, I'm so thankful. You reminded me that I belong to a different religion and a different country, because in these last 5 days I was so busy being a human and a Bengali that I forgot about all of this. So this is, I think, what Durga Puja is all about. It goes beyond the spiritual connect only. I mean, that is the core. How should I say? The hot ball inside, but there's so many layers of soil around it, and that's what we need to, like, really enjoy. So this whole idea of dragging people out, coming out onto the roads, because if you see most of our festivals, apart from Holi or maybe in a couple of, I mean, there is not a single festival in India that we have which is more like a street festival which goes on for 5 days. It's on the, it's for people, it's for everyone. There is for, and for me or for my family, I would say the person who's selling a balloon outside our pandal is as important as probably the purohit who's doing the puja. Our pandal guys who come all the way from Bengal, and our guys who are coming to do the murti and the shringar and so on, from the guy who's doing the food stalls to the auntie who's cooking for the Devi, from the boys who are, because you see Durga Puja is for everyone. That is something which needs to be sort of felt, because it's a street festival. The Times magazine called it the second largest street festival in the world, which technically, if I look at the numbers, I'm sure it's probably the first one, because they were calling the this one, the Rio festival, as the largest one. Or trust me, when you calculate all 5 days across the world, I think we are much larger than that any days. So I mean, the whole this wave of how spirituality blends with that regular life. I mean, think about it. Our mothers and our aunts and all wake up early in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. They cook for the goddess because they become the Annapurna for the goddess at that time, and they are feeding the goddess, and then that's sort of fed to everyone. I mean. On any given day, we have 3 to 4 thousand people who's coming to take the bhog prasadi, and over a period of 3 days. So this entire communal activity of enjoying, feeding, dancing, being all there under that umbrella of the goddess, I think that's what represents this beautiful imagery of Matu. Where you have Durga. She is the goddess with the 10 hands and killing Mahisasur. At the same time, she has her daughters, which is Lakshmi and Saraswati. In a spiritual manner, they are the three devis. But in our cultural manner, they are the two daughters, and then she has the two sons. The entire family is together. So this whole family connects, and making a person from whichever part of India, or sorry, whichever part of the world, and the second they walk in into your home or your pandal or wherever, it just takes you a second to hug them as family. So I think
Hmm.
this beautiful part of Durga Puja is what I think makes our community that strong. So
Beautiful. So beautifully explained. I can't imagine that you're also a cook and a restaurateur and this entrepreneur because oh my gosh, this is getting intense. Okay, I'm very engaged and I'm sure
you
everyone else is too.
just comment on one thing, like this, if you ask my sister or any of my cousins or whoever, there's one beautiful thing we always say, and this is thanks to my uncle actually, and
Hmm.
of course thanks to my grandparents, and then blah 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 blah, the entire gamut of it. We constantly say one thing, like because we've been doing Durga Puja personally as a family thing for such a long time. Today, whoever and whatever I am, with regards to your me being an entrepreneur or an event manager, or managing people, or managing things around, managing finances, everything I owe to Durga Puja, 150%. The
I
reason
believe.
being, when you're doing this huge thing, from the lowest micromanagement scale to a huge macro management of this, that makes you, I mean, think about it. These little girls and boys, when they're 3, 4, 5 years old, they are pushed on the stage to do theaters, to do things, to talk to people. That gives them so much of confidence, public speaking, public performances. You are, this entire thing. So it's a beautiful way of sort of culturally and socially growing into a larger tree than just, I mean, being around. So trust me, if I cook, or if I run a restaurant, or if I do events or whatever it is, thanks to Durga Puja, otherwise I would have never been able to do this. Trust me.
No, you're good. You're very good. And thanks to the Durga Puja. Let's look at some of the slides because I'm very keen to know. While I was putting them together, I was really interested in some of them because they look completely alien to me. So,
Please go
there is
slide.
a question, Samrat. Could you look at that question? Are there any personal Durga pujas as well, like the Ganesh pujas that are done at home? So, is there a concept of having a Durga image at home?
There's a I mean, to again go back to the shastras on this one to start with. So Durga Puja is considered as Kali Yug's Rajasuya Yagya. So which Rajasuya Yagya used to be one of the biggest yagyas of our bygone yugas, and the reason why it's considered that is, in Durga Puja you need a lot of things. Finances, obviously. People, very important. You can't just do it alone. Of course, you can
Yeah.
do it alone, not the way we know it. We can do it. Puja is something which you just read the Chandi, the Shastra, with just one little, bowl of water and flower. You can also do Durga Puja. But the way we know Durga Puja as such, it can be done without finances, without people, without a community, and without a huge amount of an army working towards the same purpose. That's one of the reasons why Durga Pujas either always used to happen in big homes, which were like the Rajbaris and so on, or it would happen, where there was a community involved in that. Now, fortunately, because the scales of Durga Pujas have gone in multiple ways, and also there are lots of people, even in Delhi for that matter, who have Durga Puja at home. So they have their entire family who comes together. There's this guy there's this doctor, sorry, a lawyer, Mr. Banerjee in B Block, who in Sia Park, who does this beautiful Durga Puja. He lives alone, but all his friends and all get together and they do this beautiful Durga Puja at home. So when it comes to doing Durga Puja the way we see it, in with all the vidhis and all the archanas that are involved in that, doing for one person at home it's very difficult. Not that it's not possible, but almost impossible. Even Ramchandra had needed an army to do the puja with him. But at the same time, there are a lot of pujas in Delhi which are taking place at homes where like a group of maybe 10, 15 friends get together and do it, or maybe a couple of like a little apartment gets together and do it, or so it's happening. It's not like it's not happening, and I think that's beautiful. Like this year, we're having a tiny Durga Puja with only
Right.
50 people because of of the restrictions and so on. And even we want to protect our family and others, so we are doing it in a very very small sort of a manner. So of course it's possible if somebody wishes to do so, and I wish them luck.
Okay, so talking about this now, well, this is what's happening here. Are they making some tents or something?
Let me first address the one which is I don't know, the slide right where there's this gentleman who's preparing this entire paper cut sort of a thing. So now this is something which goes behind Ma. So as I said that folklorishly, our so Durga is coming home to us like our little daughter. So this background is called Chalchitro or Chali, which basically means the roof of your house. Even though it's two dimensional, but it's supposed to mean the roof of your house, and it's very unique because you'll see parts of it which is very decorative, which are these little paper cut and tinsels and silver little bits and bobs out there. And one part which is painted, which is called the Pottochitra art, which is painted out there. So right in the middle, you will have. So this, I was just talking to somebody about it. This is almost like how should I say? What Ma is giving a destination to. I mean, what she is giving you. In the sense, that's like a little destination map. So right behind her is Kailash, where there is Shivji. So on her left hand side, there is Radha and Krishna with the gopis, which is
Hmm.
Vrindavan. And on her right hand side, you have Ayodhya, like the Saket Ayodhya, on her right hand side. So basically, it shows that I am the way to either Kailash or Vrindavan or Saket, wherever you wish to. I will take you there. So that's on the right, and on the left, these are these two gentlemen. So you have Said. I mean, in this particular picture, you have Said and Joseph. They are these two guys who actually help us in making the pandal. I mean, they have been there since ever. I mean, they are actually third generation guys who are helping us. So I used to know. Michael, who was Joseph's grandfather, and he was the one who actually taught me how to do the bamboo structure of the pandal, and how to check whether it's actually weatherproof and windproof. So
Huh.
that's them the pandal out there. Oh, this is cute. So uh, so as we were talking about the Mrinmay Murti, which is the clay image that happens. So clay image, irrespective whether, I mean, before the Pran Pratishtha is also done. So the work of the Murti starts from Rath Yatra. So on the day of Rath, because if you realize, the Rath, there are three Raths. So you have Jagannath, Balram, and beach mein you have Subhadra. And Subhadra is Mahamaya, Yogamaya Durga. So they are coming towards Earth at that day, and we catch them. So we keep her with us. So the work of the Murti or the clay image, it starts on Rath Yatra by a small ritual called the Kathama Pujo. Kathama Pujo is worshipping the structure on which she is going to be constructed on. So that then slowly, then there is straw, then there is clay, and then there is paint, like and right on the day of. So now it's become synonymous to Mohalay, but approximately around 11 days before Durga Puja, her eyes are painted because her eye, and that's a very very big ritual for us, because you see in Durga Puja, no matter what you have, a Bengali associates Durga Puja most by just the three eyes of Durga. Like your wishes for Durga Puja and all, and the email cards and all, you'll always see that the eyes, And so making and creating these eyes and painting these eyes, suddenly just evokes that entire clay murti. So that's
Hmm.
what's happening. Okay. Oh, there's Bhavdeep there. So
Is it peep? Is it?
sorry.
Is this gentleman just peeping through, or is there a ritual happening?
No, he's actually waiting because this is the time where he's actually not peeping through. Actually, he's just waiting with the curtains. So our Devi Devtas and Bhagwans, they're very shy. They don't like to eat in front of people. So they
Ah,
always we curtain when food is served to them. So this gentleman, his name is Bhavdeep Chadha. So lovely. He's one of our our best sevaks, and
beautiful is this person? Yeah,
yeah, I mean, he's a Sardarji, but he's as Bengali as anyone. So, I
that's
mean, how do I say, the guy, I can't say the lady in waiting, but he's like the gentleman in waiting. So, the second they're going to ring the bell from inside, he will then open the curtains for everyone to have darshan.
ah, beautiful.
Oh my God, this is Adda. Now, this can be an entire series of yours, you know. So, Adda, I mean, constantly keep on talking about it. Bali Adda is not like the Hindi Adda, you know. So, we like to talk about everything and anything. We have an opinion on everything. If there's a
Hmm,
Bengali who doesn't have an opinion, which means there's something wrong with that guy, or he must have had some bad food the night before. So there is no other way that he can't have an opinion. So the
hmm,
best, so an adda sort of really see in Delhi we don't have that style of adda as such in the sense so in Calcutta you'll always realize that people come back from office, they don't really sit at home. They are immediately outside, on the bench or playing carom. They're talking to people. They're constantly sharing ideas, and they have a view on politics, on movie, on sports, on anything. So now in Delhi, because our lifestyles have changed so much, we don't meet, and they don't have to be friends for another. They could be random people that you've
right.
gone to the chai store and just picked up the kulhar ka chai, and whoever is in front of you, you start a conversation. That's
Hmm,
what Adda, basically talking about everything and having an opinion without any constructive thing happening in life. So that is
hmm,
what art means. So during Durga Puja, when the pandal is being done, the preparations for these 2 3 weeks when this usually takes place, that's when the entire colony or your friends or your family, they all gather there. And
hmm,
for hours, people actually call in sick, or they will just make a bahana that I have a meeting, and they leave office so that they can come and join and have this adda, which is like an amazing thing because you talk about everything. I mean,
everything.
yeah, you start with, oh, we're meeting for a purpose, but apart from the subject of the purpose, you talk about everything, and suddenly you realize there are probably crows, crocking on your head because it's already morning. So this is one of those typical scenes from one of our
Why is
infamous.
her face covered?
Oh, the face is covered because usually it's still under construction at that time. So you see,
Wow.
put like a gham tel, or there's this oil which is put on her. So usually dust and all particles just to save her from the elements. That's that. And also traditionally, the murti, the unveiling of the goddess happens on Shashti, which is the
Shush.
6 day of Navratri. So then there is this huge sort of opening of the curtain, and when she comes alive from that moment. So hence, basically it's nothing. She's there, and we cover her face so that this agony and that pain sort of really really builds up together for those 4 days when it just bursts. That's all.
Got it. And so tell me, what's this silver animal? Is it a lion or is it a composite figure?
Oh God,
Or
that's a very complicated thing. Actually, if you look at it's a lion. He's a lion. He's 100%. Now, if you look at the iconography of lions in India, say from 400 years back, you will always see the lion, maybe the pala or the Sringala
yeah.
lion. So it's single lion, and um, all across from south to north, the lion is represented in this way. So if you look at any Karnataka temple or Odisha or in
Hmm.
Kerala, in the temple art, you'll always see this lion as a very mythical creature, which kind of looks like a horse,
Hmm.
and the nose with a bit of a spout out there,
Hmm.
with this
Hmm.
huge amount of claws and so on. So it's anything but a lion looking. It's more
Right.
like a creature. So, but I think it's more of an art representation which came through. And the normal Asiatic lion was only brought in, again, this is a very funny thing, was brought in because the British did not understand this animal. So they started making the lion looking more like a lion only after the influence of the British coming in, because they also wanted to sort of, impress them, because the lion is a very important creature to the Brits. I mean, it's a symbol of
Of course.
a sovereign symbol with a crown. So they started making the silver and gold lions. This is when the Brown Sahib British sort of thing amalgamated. So they became so suddenly the Sri turned into this the normal Asiatic lion. However, because we are a very traditional household, so we continued with the British. So that's why he's this little mythical creature which looks like a horse but is a lion.
Interesting. All right. So this is also the unveiling part, or is it still in prep?
Yeah, this is still in prep actually. It's just a very beautiful photograph of this cloth which is being actually put on her face. I mean, it is about to be. So this is just before she's arrived. So I mean, she's just arrived from the potter's, the our idol maker's factory, and she has just entered the pandal. And we actually take, and this is a more of a practical thing. So we actually unveil the face at that point of time, because once she's placed, and she's very heavy, so once she's placed, to make sure that her eyes and the angle and everything is fine for those couple of seconds, just to check that, and then the face is covered immediately after that.
I see. So one of our supporters is asking, tell us about the communities that make the idols, about the communities who typically play the drums, and is there a name or or something like that? Is there a name for the dance that happens like dandiya they have in Gujarat?
Of course, your like the guys who make the murtis, the idols, they have the title Pal, so Pal. So you'll have a lot of, I mean, most of the people who are making the idols, they are all Pals. Now, there's a very quick story on this one also. So we cannot, talk about Durga Puja if we don't talk about Krishna Nagar. So
Hmm.
Chandanagar, Krishna, and so on, because the Maharaja, the Krishna Dev Rai and all, they were the one who really brought Durga Puja in a very grand sort of a manner, sort of made it a sort of a thing. So they were the first ones who the image of the Durga Murti that we see today, because when it is to happen earlier, you would only have Durga as Mahishasur Mardini, and with Jaya and Vijaya on both sides. But then later on, the Ganesh and Kartik got added, then
Hmm.
Saraswati and Lakshmi, and so on. So that Murti, as we see it in a complete family form, was first created by Raja Krishna Dev Rai of Krishnanagar,
Got it.
approximately 490 or 390. I'm forgetting the years, but so when he started, he also established a smaller group of people who were the clay. I mean, they were the idol makers out there.
Hmm.
Now, Durga Puja became famous and popular in Kolkata around say 250 to 300 years back. There was a huge demand for these potters to come and work there. Now, the potters started coming there, and as it happens in communities, when they come for a certain point of time, there's obviously a better, income in that area, and so on. So they
Hmm.
started settling there. So there were people who from North Calcutta. They gave them an area where they could work and actually be. So that became Kumor Tuli. Kumor Tuli means a place to learn. Tuli means
Oh,
toll, school. So Kumor Tuli became a place where all the potters started living. Obviously, what we see today is massive, but earlier there were actually only 8 quarters of these parks who had come. And park initially used to be a title. So if you were a clay maker, if you were a clay artist, you were given a title Pal, which became a surname later, like most of the titles in India. So
Ah,
community. So from Krishnanagar, so in Krishnanagar also you have a huge community of these potters. At the same time, in Kolkata, Kumotuli became synonymous to this community which came and started, living out there. At the same time, so when Durga Puja started becoming big in multiple cities in and around India or even abroad, so these potters were taken out there. They would usually go there annually, set up a studio where they will make the murtis, and then they go back again. So like our guy has been coming for generations. His name is Manik Chandrapal. So he's been coming from Krishnanagar. So because our style of the murti is not your atypical Kumartuli style. Our style is more the Krishnanagar style. The reason being we have people coming from Krishnanagar even till today who come and make the murti for us. So they
hmm.
come and they would stay for approximately 3.5 months, all the way from Ratha Yatra in say around July, June, July, August, and they'll stay till Diwali. So that's the period that they come and stay there. However, our it is the clay, the ones who do the clay work is one community. Then you have another community which is called the Malakars, which technically, literally translated means like garland banane wala. So
Ah,
which are like Shringaris. They are the ones who does the entire silver tinsel work, the Dakesh Shaj of Ma. Now this community is not that old actually. This community practically started around I mean say around 200 years back.
okay.
The reason being the entire decor that you see on Ma is called Dakish Shaj because Dak mein aata tha. It used to come by
Ah,
post Germany. So that's why it was, because foil was not made in India at that time. So there
wow.
was a company who would get the this thing foil from. So because they would say like, "I डाक आ गया माँ का शाज आ गया डाक आ गया," so वो डाक का शाज हो गया. But
Wow.
when this started doing it themselves, I mean, they created, so in Krishnanagar, a smaller community got built who were doing this work, and they are called the Malakars.
Hmm.
So our guy who comes to do the Shringar, his name is Shamol Malakar.
Yeah.
So that's another community which comes. Similarly, when you have the drummers, so most of the drummers, very interestingly, you'll be surprised. If I'm not mistaken, probably 50 or 60% of the drummers belong to the Islamic community, and around 30 to 40% of them belong to Hindu community, and some of them are actually, they don't belong to religion because they are probably from a backward tribe and so on, and they're all
Okay.
farmers. Primarily, they are all farmers throughout the year, and because they're very close to the land, I mean, to the soil. So this is a
Hmm.
community throughout the year they do farming. During Durga Puja, they become drummers. So they are called the dhakis.
Wow. This is
Am I?
super interesting. Wow. These are literally like what you said, layer cake. It's like layers and layers and layers.
There is
So
no way. I mean, you can talk about Durga Puja. You can go on for like centuries on this because there's so much to it. Because the whole
cool.
social cultural aspect of it, the people aspect of it. There's so many people. Like when you look at the pandals, like say around 150 years back, this community which does pandals didn't even exist. But and again, there's something very interesting. So in Kolkata, there's this huge area within the most important aristocratic area of Calcutta called Sonargachi, which is the red light district in Kolkata.
Hmm.
Now the interesting part is like these used to be like these very famous baijis like Gauhar Jans and all, and Munni Bais and all. I mean, there were these really big stars of that period
Yes,
of
yes.
time.
Ah,
And so these ladies obviously had children with all these aristocratic families. So you had these children who were extremely artist and also entrepreneurial to a certain degree. Now they are one of the biggest community which actually are the pandal makers. They are the ones who does all do all the thermocol work, and all the artistry comes out of there. So right
wow.
next to Ragachi in Kolkata, there is this one community which was built up over the last 150 years, completely based on this. As your Parar Pujo, community Pujos became popular, so this community suddenly got a market to grow and sort of expand in that one.
Beautiful. Okay, so now what's happening here?
Okay, so this is basically just this is so the very next day after this is going to be Pran Pratishtha. So now she's come in her clay form, which is the Mrinmay form. One of the main things that we do in a Mrinmay form is sort of cleanse her of all the tamasic gun that she may have. So, which means that every object that you see, everything, including me, anything which is around me, is always, it has the three gunas that we call the tamasic, the rajasic, and your sattvic guna. So, through a process of touching her with the most purest of things, which is, I mean, all from the earth, So, there is stone, there is chandan, there is the different grains, there is banana, there's fruits, there is pan, there are mirrors, there are things, loha. So, we actually sort of, give her the energy of the earth and cleanse her, cleanse the idol. She's still an idol at that point of time, and she's not turned into the Mrinmayi Swarup or the as Durga at that point of time. So we are cleaning the entire murti, the entire imagery of her through all the tamasic, which is considered the negative energies of whatever has been used to build her, and only the positive energies are being sort of enhanced in her. This ceremony, by the way, it's called Adhivas. Just letting you know. That's all.
Adi?
Adhivas.
Okay. Hmm. And this is just a regular ritual prayer, like you got all these lamps.
So, so all these boys which are standing all dressed in like red and all. So this is just after Oshtumi. So they have just escorted the Kumari, the little girl who manifests as a Devi and who we pray to her during Ashtami. Now she has
Hmm.
just gone back to sit here. There she's sitting out there. So all the boys have just escorted her to get some some fresh air and relax a bit and then eat. So that's
I-
where they are all gathered out there.
Okay. And this is when all the women are praying. Is this to the
Correct.
left, this image when she's about to leave?
Yeah, no, this is the image when she has just arrived.
All right.
So, and that's actually my mother and my bua in that picture. So they are super excited, obviously very very emotional that she's come back after a year. So this is more of a welcome. And on the other side you have all the ladies, and I'm actually not ladies, everyone. So we have this ceremony. I won't call it it's a ritual because it's not part of the shastra, but as our puja goes, so you have something which is laukik, which is like through the people, through ladies, through everyone. So there is something called pushpanjali, and trust me, Bengalis wait throughout the entire year for like the ashtami mein pushpanjali agar nahi diya, so my entire life's going to be a disaster. So this is the time when everybody gathers together, and everybody keeps a fast till that point of time, and everybody offers flowers to Ma for the health of their family and shanti of their family and of the entire world.
Okay. And this is some initiation ceremony or just the beginning or
Yeah, this is actually just the beginning of the Aarti. When the Aarti takes place, this is just as they are starting. So you'll see, like, so our puja is very traditional. So we don't, we have everybody, all these boys. Now you'll be surprised, that I can see a couple of bankers out there. There's a doctor, there's a lawyer, there's everyone. But when you see them out there, it looks like it's taken you back around 150 years. The way they're dressed and so on, and they're all ready. So there are these four boys in the corner out there. One's got a fan, got the chamar, one's got the bell, one's got. So they've all been lined up to just start the aarti, and they're there in service.
how beautiful. Makes you want to do this.
I know you
Okay.
should.
Yes, we've discussed this. So this is a
So
beautiful
that
image. Is that your mother again?
Yes, absolutely. So this is when so the Patrika or the kola bow, as we call it, the same image that we saw before. Now on one you'll see that that's me carrying her. So she's brought in for a ritualistic bath. So the first bath which takes place is with all the ladies of the house. So all the ladies would gather, and ladies of all age and all community, they all get together and bathe her with haldi, like just the way you have a haldi ceremony, just before a wedding.
Yeah.
Bathe her nicely, and then she's then carried and then placed just outside the Vedi, where the priest will offer another bath to her with the mantras from waters from different parts of. I mean, there's like we have 72 different kinds of water that we use for Mahasnan and so on. So there are like so water from the rain, water from the dew, collected from the dew, from different rivers, from different lakes, ponds, all sorts of waters go into the the ritualistic bath of us, because see, Durga, that's what when these niyams were made was to bring everyone together. So the person who's doing the puja either has to talk to a large community in getting these, or physically go around and do that. So again,
It's
she's been
so
brought back,
beautiful.
and these are all the ladies, which is so this is called the boron. Boron is a way that जैसे नहीं दुल्हन जब the aarti that women do to for the nahi dulhan of the house, or for that any auspicious, so the kala nazar to go out and completely welcoming her. So this is all the ladies get together and do this ceremony
So
on
lovely.
on the seventh day morning.
Lovely. Seventh day morning. Okay.
uh,
And what's happening here?
so on the left, we have discussed, how these boys, I mean, they have these. So you'll realize in this picture that the black and white one, so you'll see the things which are used in the seva for the arti. So there is the
Hmm.
fan, which represents the house, actually.
Hmm.
You'll see the color, which represents the divine air. Then you'll have the boys, with the bells and
Hmm.
the which
Symbol.
sort of odds of all the black eye and kala nazar ko bahar karne ke liye sorts. So that's what's happening. Then of course you have the dhunuchi. That I mean, there is no way. I think one of your the viewers also asked what's this dance called and so on. So
Yes.
dhunuchi. So I mean, I think all the movies and everywhere, dhunuchi has become the most popular thing for everyone. So, see, Dhuno is something which is done in a Bengali house every day. If you're a traditional Bengali house, as like in my restaurant, we start the day by because so it's natural coconut husk, which is
Wow.
burnt, loban,
Yes, yes.
the called the not the amber, what's it called? The resin, the
Right.
dry,
Yes.
it's like sort of crushed and put into it, which sort of gives this very fragrant smoke. Now
Hmm.
it's a great way of I mean sort of keeping your house away of pests and mosquitoes and all sorts of little crawly creepies and so on, and it's
Hmm.
beautiful. Got a very nostalgic childhood smell attached to it also. So Dhuno is used every day. Now, so Dhuno then turned into, see, again, to make a lot of people participate. So there were small little ceremonies throughout Durga Pujo which would take part, where you'll have the dancers coming in and you'll have the singers coming in. So Dhunuchi dance became a very popular thing. So where you will take the dhuna and you will dance after the arti on the beats of the drum. It brings everyone together. You drag everyone into the spirit and so on. And then of course the dhunuchi dance. I mean movies like Porinita and I don't know Pata
Yes.
Nahi Kaun Si, they made that into a huge thing. It's a very big
Very
thing because
fast.
I mean, when we have a lot of people visiting, as the Bongs divide this world into the Bengalis and the non-Bengalis. When we have the non-Bengalis, when they come to visit, that's what attracts them the most. Also,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's also a very beautiful thing because when you have the dhuna and the dance and the drums and the whole thing, a lot of people get attracted to this community, that opens a little window and a door for them to sort of join in. So that's the best part. And see, in Durga Puja, or for that matter any puja, one of the most important things are, when you are offering the puja, one of the most important things is you have to get rid of your ego. And there is
Hmm.
no way of getting rid of your ego then you're pushed into a dance in front of so many people that you've never seen before. You know,
Absolutely.
just get, it's like getting into a वो barati wala effect कि भैया
Bil-
नाचना शुरू कर दो. So then you forget the world. So that's the whole thing.
Beautiful. So similar images.
It's the same on this one.
Oh, look at
So
her here. So beautiful.
So this is very important. So during the Sandhi Puja, so Sandhi Puja is one of the most important puja ceremonies during the Durga Puja. This is the time when Chand and Mund, the two asurs, they were slayed by Chamunda. So when Ma came out in her most fiercest of form as Chamunda, that this is the junction, where Ashtami and Navami. So around 20 plus minutes of Ashtami and 20 plus minutes of Navami, that Sandhi, that period is called Sandhi Puja, where she's in her most fiercest of forms, where she is the slayer of Chandamund, the two asurs. Now, the lamp that you're seeing out there is, so there is the bali which takes place. Obviously, we don't have any animal sacrifice. The bali is actually of your ego. And
Right.
we represent, so that bali takes place. It's a small little ritual where there is a ganna which is cut so that, everybody sort of imagines their ego to be put into that ganna, and that is, cut off for Ma. So when she kills, and that also represents that, this is the time when Chandan Munda has been slayed. Uh, and that's the time all the Devi Devtas are requesting Ma, because the Chamunda form of Ma is extremely scary. She's in her most darkest of forms, with like eyes with fire coming out. Her tongue is dripping blood. She has like she looks like I mean, you can see her bones and veins. She's that thin at that time. Her bust is almost touching her waist. She's wearing this tiger cloth around. She's very scary and very fierce. So
Yes.
straight after the Bali, all the Devi Devtas and all the bhakts, we then do arti with 108 lamps. We
Hmm.
offer 100 flowers to ki that Ma ab shant ho jao. Come back to your normal swaroop. You need to come back as our daughter, as our mother. So this is those 108 lamps which is being served to her at that time. Did I lose her? Shagufta, have I lost you?
No, I'm right here.
Hi, sorry, did I lose you there?
Not at all.
Oh, I thought I did. I could see on the screens
No, I
everybody's.
was moving the slides. Sorry.
Okay, okay, okay. Sure, sure, sure.
Okay, so this is the pandal,
Correct.
and we can see this really closely now. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the term that you said.
Chali,
The one.
chali, like a
Right.
roof. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
You can see the entire thing on this one here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And a lot of these alpanas, are they made by some people, or
Yeah.
like is it also a community, or is it just the members of?
What it's beautiful. Like, last year we came up with this idea that, because, we used to use a lot of thermocol earlier for all the work, because everybody used to use. I mean, we didn't put a, thought to it. And last year we decided that we're not going to use anything which is not going to be biodegradable, because
Hmm.
see, when the Kudawala takes all the thermocol away, I mean, we are fine because we have disposed it. But where it's going, we realize that, we're just making a
Right.
mess. So that's why we stopped using thermocol, and we wanted to sort of, create this entire traditional way of doing the decor. So we had this entire team, and this is our, all our friends and family got together creating this alpana on brown paper. And all of them
Oh,
have been different houses and all. And if you just give me one quick second, I'll make the guy who's made the Alpana just peep in for a second. Rajat, come. Let me. And
Ah,
yeah, he's right there. So I just ask him to just peep in for a second because I'll also show you what's happening for this year. Come very quickly. Just say hi. So that's Rajat who's done the entire Alpana work.
oh, my, wonderful. This is
His
so nice.
first time in doing the Alpana. So just again, I mean, we call him Sharma ji ka beta, but he completely turned wrong, in doing this. It was amazing.
Okay, wonderful. So, what's happening here?
This is the last day, just before Ma is about to leave. So all the women of the house, they manifest themselves as the mother, and they are bidding farewell to the goddess as their own daughter. So
Yeah.
they have mithai and so on. So here there's my mother who's leading the procession of all the ladies behind her, and she's basically washing the way as they go with pani.
So this is Sindoor Khela.
Yeah, this is just before the Sindur Khela.
Ah. And what's happening here?
So this is the Darpan Visarjan. So you see, I mean, what happens is that all the prayers which are offered to the goddess, we can't sort of, I mean, like bathing her, feeding her, and so on. We can't physically do it on the murti. So
Yeah.
entire puja is done on a reflection on a mirror. So right at the end, we actually then immerse the mirror as a symbolic immersion of her going back home with this beautiful mantra which says, Gacha Gacha Param Sthanam Nijasthanam Parameshwari Yat Vatsarante Punaragamasya. Like, please, I'm allowing you to go back this year only so that you can come back again next year.
Yeah. Mm. How beautiful is the sentiment. This is again that Kumari, the Kanya,
Correct.
right?
This is the
How beautiful. Oh,
like,
this is so beautiful.
entire community sort of worshipping the manifestation of the Devi in the Kumari.
So beautiful. So beautifully dressed. Ah,
This is
this
the
is like
evening. The whole family and everyone gathers together for the aarti ceremony.
just lovely. Just
Oh God,
lovely.
this is just the
Oh,
crowd.
this
This
is
is
too
the
beautiful. Beautiful.
entire crowd which gathered. This is Sindur Khala. All the ladies which have gathered right at the end.
So nice. And this is when she's leaving, huh?
Yeah, when she's leaving, so we don't go to Yamuna anymore for the Visarjan because I mean pollution laws and so on. So we actually make a pit, and that's where Visarjan takes place. So on our ground only, there's a pit where the Visarjan takes place, and after 2 days, when all the mitti and all is dissolved, we then sort of get the entire mitti and all treated from there.
Ah. Okay, so
So this
there's a demand also. Navneet says that she would like to hear uh, the last year's Visarjan song.
here,
I don't know, but she wants that.
or
This
she's
is
tell later. I'll sing it for her later. Navneet Chahal.
hmm?
Is that Navneet Chahal by any
Yes,
chance?
yes, it's Navneet
Yes,
Chair.
I'll give her a separate this thing. So basically, the
हमने क्या
song which
गुस्ताखी की है जो हमको सुनने को नहीं मिलेगा?
अच्छा नहीं ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. I was worrying about the time. That's all. So we have
Well,
this
we don't
beautiful
have much time, but the fact is that a
just
song is always welcome.
30 seconds on it. So during just at the second we do the Visarjan, so we all sing this one song which is like Akbar Birajo Goma Hriday Kamala Shane. So it's a beautiful song which actually says like एक बार विराज जा मेरे अंदर जो from the murti that I have taken you from the eternal and I have put you in this murti. Now from this murti don't go back to the eternal. Come inside me into my Riddhi Kamal, which is my the lotus of my heart.
Wow. So, Samrat, you're like, we were talking about polymaths on Friday and Bengalis. So, this obsession with polymaths. So, you're a cook, you are an aesthete clearly, You're a singer, you finance, manage everything, an entrepreneur, and of course, somebody who's very, very close and aware of their spiritual side. So, I mean, this is wonderful for especially our younger audience. So, it's important for them to know that you can be all this and much more. And it's okay, so demand is here. Please still sing full song, and dance too. And he dances too. Yes, I can imagine that Samrat dances too because you can see that in his body language.
No, I am so like strict right now. Maybe dance. I can send you a video later, which show your
Love
audience.
that.
But see this song which we're talking about, this actually what also gives you the mood, because what happens is this song has so many. So she is a baby to you. She is our daughter. At the same time, she's our mother. The multiple relationships that we have. There's this beautiful one part which I always like, and probably I'll just sing that part, and we can probably end at your with your permission. It's so it says like, তুমি পুরুষ কি নারী জানিতে পারি, স্বয়ং যদি না বুঝালে বুঝিতে পারি। তুমি আধা রাধা আধা কৃষ্ণ সাজিলে বৃন্দাবনে, আধা রাধা আধা কৃষ্ণ সাজিলে বৃন্দাবনে, কমলাসনে। So this whole thing, like, whether you are a male or a female or who you are, I have no clue. Till you tell me in form and who you are. So to me, it doesn't really matter because you manifest as Radha at sometimes and Krishna and sometimes in Vrindavan. So this whole beauty of this entire in all encompassing sort of a. I mean, there is kaha Shiv, kaha Ram, kaha wo, everything put together in this beautiful manner. I think that's the whole spirit of Durga Puja.
So beautiful. And oh gosh, thank you so much. Everyone's just, it's an overwhelming response. Thank you so very much. And I know that we can talk and talk and talk about this, and you'll still have something
Yeah.
beautiful to share. Yes, it's like so beautiful. Some of us have gone into the memory lanes, others have learned something new. And for me, it's been such a joyous experience just talking to you. I hope that you come back soon and you
Any
sort of. Yes, please come
Durga.
back. For this year's Durga Puja, all the very best. It's not the most very different this year, but let's hope that we're able to celebrate the spirit wherever we are and look after yourself, everyone. Stay safe. Thank you, Samrat. Thank you so very much. Everyone from Ganga Jamni, good night, and hope to see you next weekend. So we have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday lined up for you, and we will inform you shortly.